The fluorescent lights in the break room hum the same way they did 40 years ago, a low, steady drone that used to lull me to sleep during night shifts. I'm sitting here now in the little apartment I moved into after selling the house. Smaller, quieter, easier to keep clean. My name is Eleanor Hayes, though the nurses I worked with for decades still call me Ellie. I'm 84 years old, a retired registered nurse from Atlanta, Georgia. I spent 43 years in hospitals and clinics, delivering babies, holding hands through chemo, sitting with families when the monitors flatlined. I've seen more of life's beginnings and endings than most folks see in 10 lifetimes. And now, in the slow evenings of my own ending chapters, I've learned things about aging that nobody ever warned me about. Not in nursing school, not in staff meetings, not in the glossy magazines in the waiting rooms. The apartment smells faintly of lavender from the sachets I still sew by hand, a habit I picked up in the 70s when fabric scraps were plentiful and time was not. My cat, Juniper, is curled on the windsill watching cardinals at the feeder. My children, 2 daughters and a son, are grown, scattered, one in Boston, one in Denver, one still here in Georgia but busy with teenagers and a husband who travels for work. They call. They visit when they can, they worry about me from afar. But most days, it's just me, my memories, and the truths I wish someone had whispered to me when I was 50, still pulling double shifts and thinking I was invincible. If you're watching this, maybe you're a nurse like I was, maybe you're caring for aging parents, maybe you're staring down retirement yourself, please hit like and subscribe. My granddaughter helped me set up this channel. She says people need to hear the unvarnished truth about getting old in America, not the aging gracefully nonsense with yoga classes and green smoothies. So here it is, straight from someone who's lived it and watched hundreds of others live it. 5 hard-won truths about what aging gracefully really looks like after 80. These aren't pretty. They're not what the senior living brochures promise, but they're real. And if you listen now, you might spare yourself some heartache later. Let me tell you about the first truth. Beauty standards at 80 are a trap. We spend our whole lives being told how to look. Magazines, TV, even well-meaning doctors. Lose 10 pounds, color the gray, tighten the skin, stand up straight, and heaven help you if you let yourself go. I watched it happen to so many patients, and then it started happening to me. There was a woman I cared for in the cardiac unit back in 2005, Mrs. Lillian Carter, no relation to the president. She was 81, elegant as a movie star, even in a hospital gown. Silver hair perfectly coiffed, nails manicured, lipstick always on. She'd been a beauty queen in the 40s, married well, kept herself up her whole life. After her bypass, she fought tooth and nail to maintain that image. Salon appointments from her hospital bed, refusing to be seen without makeup. Her daughters brought in curling irons and anti-aging creams, but recovery was slow. The weight fell off, her skin sagged, the hair thinned. She looked in the mirror one day and wept. "I'm disappearing," she said. Not from the heart disease, from the loss of the face she'd spent 80 years perfecting. She sank into depression, stopped physical therapy, passed 6 months later. The obituary photo was airbrushed. Contrast that with Mrs. Rosa Mendoza, 83, when I met her in home health a few years later. Rosa had worked as a maid her whole life, raised 8 kids, never had money for salons or creams. Her hands were rough, her hair snow white and cut short with kitchen scissors. Her face a map of deep lines from laughing and crying and everything in between. But Rosa glowed. She'd sit on her porch in a house dress, no makeup, waving at neighbors, telling stories to anyone who'd listen. Her family adored her. Grandkids fought to spend weekends. When she got sick, lung cancer from secondhand smoke years earlier, she refused wigs, refused to pretty up the illness. "This is me," she said. "Take it or leave it." She lived 2 more years, surrounded by love, dying at home with her hair wild and her smile wide. I fell into the trap myself after retiring, spent money on creams, dyes, even considered those fillers the younger nurses raved about. felt foolish every time. Now, my hair's white, my skin's soft and spotted, I wear comfortable shoes and cotton dresses. And you know what? People smile at me more. Strangers in the grocery store say, "You have a kind face." Kind beats beautiful at 84 every single time. So if you're 60 and staring at wrinkles in the mirror, stop fighting them. They're not the enemy. The enemy is believing your worth is tied to how closely you resemble your 40-year-old self. Let it go. The freedom on the other side is breathtaking. Second truth, emotional resilience outlasts any treatment, any diet, any exercise plan. I saw it in patients over and over, the ones with perfect vitals who were miserable, and the ones with failing bodies who were utterly alive. Take Mr. Harold Jenkins, 82, admitted to my floor in 2012 with congestive heart failure. His labs were textbook, cholesterol low, blood pressure managed, weight perfect. He exercised daily, ate oatmeal and salmon, took every pill on schedule. His doctor called him a model patient. But Harold was hollow. His wife had died a decade earlier. His son lived in California and rarely called. His friends had passed or moved away. He sat in his room staring at the wall, refusing visitors, barely eating the heart-healthy meals. "What's the point of all this effort?" he asked me one night. "I'm just waiting." His heart was strong. His spirit was broken. He declined slowly, not from the disease, but from loneliness. Then there was Mrs. Grace O'Malley, 85, end-stage COPD, oxygen tank always nearby. Her lungs were shot from years of smoking. She'd quit at 70, but the damage was done. Medically, she was a mess. Frequent exacerbations, steroids, hospitalizations. But Grace? She was radiant. She'd wheel her oxygen tank to the hospital's art therapy room, painting watercolors of the Irish countryside her grandparents left behind. She organized bingo games on the floor, flirted shamelessly with the male patients, told stories that had us nurses in stitches. Her family visited often, but even without them, Grace had built a community. When she passed, the floor felt empty for weeks. Her obituary didn't mention her oxygen saturation. It mentioned her laughter. I learned this firsthand when my own body started betraying me. Arthritis in my hands, ironic for a nurse who spent decades starting IVs and holding newborns. Cataracts, hearing loss, a knee that clicks like a metronome. Doctors offered surgeries, injections, therapies. Some I took, some I declined. But what kept me going wasn't the treatments. It was the emotional armor I'd built over a lifetime. Gratitude lists I write every night, phone calls with old nursing friends, volunteering at the free clinic twice a month, spoiling Juniper with treats. My body aches, but my heart is steady. If you're watching and you're chasing perfect health metrics, pause. Ask yourself, am I building joy alongside the jogs? Am I nurturing relationships as carefully as my diet? Because at 80, emotional resilience is the only thing that will carry you when the body falters. Third truth. Intergenerational bonds beyond blood family are what combat isolation best. We're told family is everything, and it is precious. But adult children have their own lives, and grandchildren grow up fast. Betting everything on blood ties can leave you stranded. I watched it with patients like Dr. Evelyn Pierce, 80, a retired pediatrician I cared for after a stroke. Brilliant woman, devoted mother. But her daughters were high-powered attorneys in New York and Chicago. Visits were rare, calls scheduled. Evelyn poured her energy into waiting for those visits, planning menus, buying gifts. When they canceled, work emergencies, kids' activities, she spiraled. The stroke recovery stalled. Depression set in. Then there was Mr. Leroy Washington, 84, former janitor at the elementary school near the hospital. No children of his own, his wife couldn't conceive and they never adopted. But Leroy had grandkids everywhere, former students who remembered him fixing their bikes, slipping them candy, listening to their troubles. They visited him in the nursing home in droves, young adults now, bringing their own babies to meet Grandpa Leroy. He had photo albums full of their graduation pictures, invitations on his wall.
When he died, the funeral overflowed with people half his age weeping for the man who'd been their safe harbor. I felt this shift myself after selling the big house. The neighborhood kids used to wave when I gardened. Now I'm in an apartment building. At first, it felt lonely. Then I started something small, a monthly story hour in the community room, reading children's books and telling nursing tales, sanitized versions. Young families started coming, parents my children's age, kids my grandchildren's. They call me Miss Ellie, bring me drawings, ask for advice about fevers and heartbreak. One little girl, Mia, comes every week with her mom. She sits on my lap while I read. Her hugs fill spaces my own grandkids can't always reach because of distance. If you're 70 and feeling the family circle shrink, look wider. Mentor at a school, volunteer with big brothers, big sisters, join an intergenerational program. The young keep you young in ways blood alone sometimes can't. Fourth truth: downsizing your home early prevents regret later. This one hits close because I resisted it for years. My friend Beatrice in Denver clung to her 4-bedroom house until 82. Her husband died, kids gone, but she couldn't bear parting with the memories, the marks on the doorframe from measuring height, the garden she and her husband planted. She rattled around in it, stairs becoming enemies, yard work overwhelming, falls started happening. Finally, a broken hip forced the move to assisted living. She grieved the house like a second death, spent her last years regretting she hadn't chosen the timing herself. Then there's Clara in Boston, 79 when she made the call. Widowed at 75, she downsized proactively to a 2-bedroom condo near the T, donated furniture, digitized photos, kept only what sparked joy. She told me, "I grieved while I was strong enough to grieve on my terms." Now at 85, she travels lighter, literally and emotionally, hosts her kids without exhaustion, has energy for theater subscriptions and classes at the senior center. I fought it too. The house in Decatur held 50 years of marriage, births, holidays. But after my husband Ray died 8 years ago, the maintenance became a burden. Stairs winded me. The yard mocked me. I downsized at 80 to this apartment. Hardest thing I ever did, sorting Ray's tools, deciding which Christmas ornaments to keep. Cried buckets. But now, I'm glad I chose it. No more worrying about leaks or taxes eating my savings. More money for travel to see the kids. More energy for living.
If you're 65 and thinking, not yet, reconsider. Downsize while you're strong enough to curate your memories, not when crisis forces your hand. Fifth truth: embracing technology for connection is non-negotiable, even if it scares you. So many of my patients refused. Too complicated, too impersonal. Mrs. Irene Goldberg, 83, isolated after moving to a retirement community in Denver. Her kids tried teaching her video calls. She waved them off. "I want real visits." But real visits were few. Flights expensive, schedules packed. Irene faded, stopped eating, passed quietly. Then there's Mr. Samuel Park, 86, Korean immigrant, limited English. His grandson taught him Zoom during COVID. Suddenly, Sam was attending family dinners in California, grandkids' recitals, even a wedding. His face lit up recounting it. Technology bridged oceans and generations. I resisted too, flip phones forever. But my granddaughter insisted. Now I FaceTime my great-grandbabies weekly, join online nursing reunions, even take virtual museum tours when arthritis flares. It's not the same as in person, but it's something. And something beats nothing. If you're intimidated by smartphones or apps, start small. Ask a young person to teach you. The learning curve is steep, but the reward, seeing a grandchild's face light up, is worth it. The afternoon light is fading now, turning the lavender walls golden. Juniper stretches, demands dinner. I've shared the 5 truths, but there are more lessons. Mistakes I made, regrets I carry, small rebellions that saved me. We'll get to those. For now,
sit with these. Let them settle. If something resonated, leave a comment. Tell me, which truth surprised you most? Or share one you've learned the hard way. I read them all. They make this little apartment feel bigger. We're only halfway through the story. There's more to tell. About money, about saying no, about finding joy in the ordinary days. But the cardinals are gone, and Juniper is insistent. I'll pause here.
Juniper has finished her supper and is now washing her face with one delicate paw, the way she's done every evening since she was a kitten. The apartment is settling into that particular hush that comes after the sun drops behind the high-rises across the street. I have turned on just one lamp, the little one with the rose-colored shade Ray bought me in Savannah the year we celebrated our 40th. The light is soft, forgiving. It doesn't pretend I'm still 60. I promised you more, and I'm a woman of my word. Nursing taught me that if you start an IV, you finish the bag. If you open a wound, you close it properly. So let's keep going. There are regrets I need to name out loud, mistakes I made that still sting, and a few small rebellions that saved what was left of my joy. If you're still here with me, pull up a chair. The first regret is one almost every nurse I know carries. I waited too long to leave the bedside. I loved the work. God, how I loved it. The rhythm of a busy med-surg floor, the way a patient's eyes change when pain finally eases, the sacred hush when a newborn takes that first indignant breath. I stayed long after my feet screamed, long after my back locked up, long after I started forgetting whether I'd charted the 2200 meds because I was simply too tired to remember. I told myself I was indispensable. I told myself the younger nurses needed my experience. Truth? I was scared to death of what came after. Who was Ellie Hayes if she wasn't Nurse Hayes? By the time I retired at 73, my body was a map of overuse, varicose veins like purple rivers, shoulders frozen from years of turning patients twice my size, knees that sounded like popcorn when I climbed stairs. The hospital threw a lovely party, gave me a plaque, and 2 weeks later I was a stranger in my own life. I wish someone had pulled me aside at 65 and said, "Ellie, start cutting shifts now. Start imagining the woman you'll be when the stethoscope comes off for good." I would have taken more watercolor classes, traveled with Ray while his heart was still strong, learned how to be home without feeling lost. So, if you're 58 or 62 and clinging to the job because it's your identity, start loosening your grip. Begin the slow goodbye while you still have energy left for hello.
The second regret is tied to money, and it's ugly, but it needs airing. I was always the saver. Ray made good money as an engineer, but I grew up poor in rural Alabama. 9 people in a 3-room house, shoes optional. Every extra dollar went into the college funds, then the mortgage, then the retirement accounts. We denied ourselves for decades. No new cars, no big vacations, clothes from Sears when they still had a catalog. I told myself it was noble. I told Ray, we're doing it for the kids. When Ray's cancer came at 76, the bills came with it. Experimental treatments, private rooms so I could stay overnight, a hospital bed in the living room so he could watch the birds he loved. The money we'd hoarded flowed out like water through a sieve. And you know what our children said when the statements arrived? "Mama, you should have let him go sooner. Think of the cost." I'll never forget that sentence. Think of the cost. As if love has a copay. Ray died anyway, comfortable, at home, with dignity. But those words lodged in my heart like shrapnel. After the funeral, I looked at the remaining accounts, still healthy because we'd been so careful, and I cried for a different reason. We could have seen the Grand Canyon. We could have taken the kids to Disney when they were small. We could have eaten steak instead of ground beef twice a week. So here's the lesson I paid dearly to learn. Spend some of the damn money on joy while you're both still here to enjoy it. Your kids will figure out college, they'll figure out houses, but they can't give you back the trips you never took, the dinners you never savored, the nights you could have slept at a hotel with an ocean view instead of worrying about the interest rate on a CD. I started spending after Ray was gone. A cruise to Alaska with my sister, glaciers the color of Ray's eyes, a week in Ireland tracing our roots, a ridiculous cashmere sweater the color of butter. My children raised eyebrows at first. "Mama, be careful, you have to make it last." I smiled and said, "Sweethearts, that's exactly what I'm doing, making it last by using it now." Third regret, I stayed polite when I should have been honest. Southern women are raised to smooth edges, to swallow sharp words, to say "bless your heart" when we mean something else entirely. I did it for decades, at work, with family, with friends. The result? Resentments that festered like untreated wounds.
There was a cousin, well, let's call her Linda, who called every Sunday at supper time for 20 years to complain about her husband, her sciatica, the price of tomatoes. I listened, murmured sympathy, hung up exhausted. When I finally said gently, "Linda, I love you, but Sundays are hard for me now that Ray's gone. Could we talk another day?" She cried, told the family I'd turned mean in my old age. Some believed her. I lost a few relationships over it, but the peace I gained was worth more than their approval. Learn to disappoint people on your own terms. The world will not end if you say, "No, I don't want to host Thanksgiving for 25, or "I'm not lending that money," or "I need quiet today." Politeness is a virtue. Self-erasure is not. Now let's talk about the small rebellions that saved me. Rebellion number 1. I stopped coloring my hair. At 78, I looked in the mirror after yet another root touch-up and thought, who is this for? The beauty shop? The grandkids? The strangers at the grocery store? I let it go white. The first few months, I felt naked. Then one day, a little girl in the park pointed and said, "Look, Mama, she has snow hair like Elsa." I laughed out loud. Snow hair. I've worn it proud ever since. Rebellion number 2. I eat dessert first when I feel like it. After watching patients on their deathbeds regret the diets more than the cigarettes, I decided life is too short for sad salads. If I want peach cobbler before chicken, I eat peach cobbler. My doctor sighs, but my blood sugar is actually better now that I'm not depriving myself into binges. Rebellion number 3. I dance in the living room. Ray and I used to dance in the kitchen to Motown when the kids were asleep. After he died, the radio stayed silent. One night 2 years ago, Ain't No Mountain High Enough came on and something in me cracked open. I turned it up loud enough for the neighbors to complain. They didn't. And I danced. Barefoot, in my nightgown, tears streaming. I dance often now. Arthritis be damned. Rebellion number 4. I became a bad patient. For years, I was the compliant one, took every pill, followed every restriction. Then I read the studies on overtreatment in the elderly and started asking questions. What happens if I don't take this statin? Is this scan really necessary? Will this new blood pressure pill make me dizzy when I stand up? Some doctors bristled. I found new ones. My medication list is half what it was 5 years ago, and I feel better. Quality over quantity, every single time. Rebellion number 5. I adopted Juniper against everyone's advice. Mama, cats or work. What if you fall and can't care for her? She was a scruffy 10-year-old from the shelter, half-blind in one eye, missing half an ear. The volunteer said, "She's been here a year. Seniors usually want kittens." I looked at her and saw myself, older, imperfect, hoping someone would choose me anyway. We've been together 4 years now. She sleeps on Ray's pillow. When I come home from anywhere, she scolds me for leaving, then purrs like a motorboat. Worth every spilled kibble. There's one more big truth I need to tell you, and it's the hardest. At 84, I have outlived almost everyone who ever knew me young. My parents, Ray,
most of my nursing classmates, even some of the babies I delivered. That's a strange kind of loneliness. No one left who remembers when my hair was auburn, when I could run for the code cart without my knees buckling, when Ray and I were reckless with hope. But here's what I've discovered on the other side of that grief. You get to become new, over and over, as long as you're breathing. I am not just the widow, the retired nurse, the grandmother. I am also the woman who learned to use an iPad at 80, who laughs at inappropriate jokes on late-night TV, who writes poetry that will never be published, who flirts with the widower in 4B because it makes us both feel 17 again. Aging is loss, yes, but it's also permission. Permission to stop performing, to stop proving, to stop postponing joy. The lamp is growing dim now. The bulb must be going. Juniper has claimed my lap, purring in that steady rhythm that says all is well. Outside, the January wind rattles the windows, but in here, it's warm enough. I still have stories left about the patients who taught me more than I ever taught them, about the day I scattered Ray's ashes in the Chattahoochee, about the letter I finally wrote to the child I gave up for adoption in 1961. But those will wait for another evening. For now, I want you to do one thing before you close this video. Look in the mirror tonight and say out loud, I give you permission to take up space exactly as you are. Say it whether you're 54 or 84. Say it until you believe it. And if anything I've shared tonight eased an ache or lit a small fire under you, leave me a note below. Tell me one rebellion you're ready to claim. I read every single comment with my morning coffee. Your words make the apartment feel full, the way it used to when Ray was humming in the kitchen and the kids were fighting over the last pancake. We're not done yet. There's more truth where this came from. But for now, the bulb has flickered its last. Time to turn off the lamp and let the moon do its work. I'll see you soon. Stay rebellious.